A warm welcome to the program. I'm Felicity Ezewike. Africa is witnessing a surge in entrepreneurial ventures, from tech startups in Kenya's Silicon Savannah to agribusinesses in Nigeria. Governments across the continent are increasingly acknowledging the role of entrepreneurship in economic development. This was the submission of Dr. Bozward in a publication titled Entrepreneurship as a Catalyst for Economic Development in Africa. In it, he shed light on the power of entrepreneurship to drive economic growth, job creation, and sustainable development across the continent. In the first half of one slot today, we will be discussing his submission on the current state of entrepreneurship in Africa and its evolution, its impact on economic development and job creation. Joining me is entrepreneur, business consultant, and a business coach, Nnamdi Felix-Unachukwu, to share expertise and experience working with entrepreneurs, policymakers, and stakeholders across Africa. The point is for us to grow. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Thank you for having me, Felicity, and thank you, viewers.
What's your assessment of the current stage of entrepreneurship in Africa, and how has it evolved over the past decade?
Yeah, if you ask for my assessment, I would say that it's still at the formative stage. It has not really matured. When comparing with counterparts in the developed economies, Africa is still emerging. If I borrow from the statement of former president of World Bank, David Malpass, I was in a CEO summit just last week in Virginia, in the US, when he said that Africa doesn't need more donors, that Africa needs more builders. And these builders definitely are entrepreneurs. So I would say that, yeah, Africa is coming up. If you look at the stats, like in Nigeria, they would tell you that has over 85%. But yet, it's not enough, because even those 85%, if you look at them very well, you see that they're not healthy. So we're looking at entrepreneurship beyond just somebody being an artisan or trading or this. You know, we need entrepreneurs who encourage innovation, entrepreneurship that brings in new ideas, new services, new businesses to help Africa. Of course, as you said and you quoted, entrepreneurship is just drivers of economic growth, and they create new jobs, address a lot of socio-economic problems, and provide solutions. So that's the job of an entrepreneur. So when you look at Africa, Africa is still laden with a lot of problems. I can't say that we have got enough entrepreneurs to tackle the issues in Africa. Africa is looked at by the globally as the hub of all those solid minerals and the crude and all kinds of minerals. And yet we don't have entrepreneurs to refine it or to deal with it. We export cocoa and import chocolate. We export crude oil to import refined white products. So Africa has to emerge. And the only people to build Africa must be Africans, because nobody will love Africa more than we do.
Okay, I like your use of the word builders to describe entrepreneurs, and not just people who are out for the profit that they can get. It definitely should go beyond that. You said we are 35% at this stage, if I got you correctly. These people have been able...
No, 85.
85%, okay. How do you think they've been able to survive navigating the unique challenges of doing business on the continent? Let's talk about some of these unique challenges and how you think they're navigating it to still be in business.
Yeah, I don't want to make a general statement, because I only know few of the African economies, but the one I'm into, where I do business, is Nigeria. So I will use Nigeria as a reference point. I would say that doing business in Africa, and Nigeria in particular, has not been that easy in the last decade because of a lot of policy somersaults, a lot of things happening in the economies, a lot of both from infrastructure to monetary policies, fiscal policies, a lot are adverse to the entrepreneurs. And they are only trying to survive and get their head above the waters. Yet it's very challenging. Though there is still solution, and that will mean that the entrepreneurs need to wait further and see if the policymakers will get it right at some point. But as it stands now, it's difficult to do business here. There are so many policies, to see how to avail funds, to make the infrastructure and even tax reforms and the rest of things that are going on and ongoing within the government, within the African nations. Yet it's still difficult. What it means that they're yet to get it right. So we can only hope. And like they say to us, renewed hope.
I'm sorry, I had to laugh at that. I'm going to have to ask you about some of these notable policies that are impeding the growth of entrepreneurship. But before that, because we are time constrained for this conversation, I'm going to ask you an area that I think you would have a lot to share, and that is, what are the essential skills and qualities required for entrepreneurs to succeed in Africa's competitive market? We're using Nigeria as a template for now.
A point of reference. Okay, using Nigeria as a point of reference, and like what I'm advocating now is that entrepreneurship is not something you learn one day. It takes a long journey. What I mean by a long journey, first of all, it starts by creating the mentality, building the mindset in an individual, and that we mean for self-resilience, and that will mean for a number of things that govern entrepreneurship. Because when you talk about the entrepreneur, it's not about hit and run. It's about staying put, be innovative. You're not just coming into it just to do one thing or the other and make money and move on. No, you are here to solve problems. And like I said, entrepreneurs are problem solvers. As long as there are problems littered here and there in Africa, what it means there's a lot of opportunity for entrepreneurs. But behold, we have so many people who don't understand it. And like, if you look at what is happening, there is growing hunger, yet we have land. What it means that farmers are not there. We don't have enough farmers. And it's very dangerous. If you look at the start, NBC start, by 2050, Nigerian population would have doubled, or at least going towards 400 million. And we are crying now. What will happen in the near future? So what I'm advocating is that why don't we change our curriculum and begin now to train children that are young, training them from the age of 7 or within 14. This is where they form a lot of things, especially the mindset. So that's where you inculcate in them the mindset of an entrepreneur and expose those children to lay their hands on everything that we train them to become good entrepreneurs, mentor them while they are growing up. And by the time they get to JS3, they would have learned a lot of craft, they would have learned a lot of skills, they would have learned a lot of vocational skills, like I mean.
Nnamdi, let me interject and ask something quickly in line with what you're saying. Catching them young, you say, but some of these skills, aren't they inherent? Are all entrepreneurship teachable or learnable? I guess what I'm saying, should everybody be an entrepreneur? Can they?
Yes, I like that question because I've seen people ask me that question, whether entrepreneurs are born or made. And I answer them, entrepreneurs are made. You train them because what is there to teach them? You expose them to what they need to know. There is nothing inborn about it. So many children today are well talented, but because there's nobody to nurture that talent or those skills, or they are not exposed. Look at their counterparts in China, producing and helping their gross national product, and you also are achieving the per capita income of their people. But in Africa, it's not the case. So many people want to go into one thing or the other, white-collar job, because that's the system we inherited. with the curriculum that is teaching them in school. They are just teaching them, training them to come out and seek for job, not giving them that opportunity to look for plan B, not giving them the opportunity to be creative, to be innovative, to get their hands and try some things. Some are afraid of failure, but entrepreneurship is a failing, dropping and rising, falling and rising. That's how you become a perfect entrepreneur. So I can answer you very clearly that entrepreneurship can be a training. It can be trained, sorry. And entrepreneurs all over the world, go and check them. Either they learn through apprenticeship and they now become entrepreneurs and are making money, and people thinking that they were born. No, never. The entrepreneurs are trained. You can bring entrepreneurship in every child in Nigeria. And that's what we need to do now, because we see that this is something, a veritable tool to help drive the economy. Why shouldn't the government pay attention to it as a project and see how we can inculcate it in school and enshrine it in the curriculum of schools and make it more robust, make it more functional, make it more systematic, and get the children to learn. Not just learning the grammar, but hands-on. They are practicing it. They are driving it. They are doing it.
I quite agree with you. I quite agree with you. Perhaps if I had had better teachers in my primary and secondary school, I'll be doing something completely different. But that's by the way. I want you to speak on some of those policies you mentioned earlier that is impeding business progress in Nigeria. But are there similar policies that could be found across other African countries that needs maybe some review to enhance doing business on the continent?
Yeah, number one, it starts with the mindset of the people, because oftentimes people push everything to government. I don't believe in that. I believe that the private sector have got a lot of roles to play in this economic growth for our nation. So there are policies from government, like you said, the fiscal policies, like what happened maybe in the last 5 years. You see the exchange rate, crisis, and you see a lot of interest rate movement. Someone has gone to the bank to borrow money to do business, and looking at the person is struggling, and all of a sudden he gets a letter from the bank telling him that the rate has moved up. Or someone who has actually got into a business, entered a letter of credit, imported, sold, and tomorrow you tell him, okay, to fulfill it, you need to bring more money. So, because the exchange rate has moved. So all these instabilities in the policies are helping and killing the entrepreneurship or the entrepreneurs in Nigeria. So until the government will get it right and leave it stable for a time, I believe in free market economy, willing buyer, willing seller. And that's what so many economies in the world are enjoying today. But it's yet to mature in Nigeria because we are not used to it. But I believe that as we are moving, things will happen. Okay, look at what is happening with Dangote today. A lot of politics around the whole thing. That's what entrepreneurs don't want, because you are toying with their investment. So if government will come out, promise you, do this, we give you all the whole the tools you need. We give you all the support you need. More entrepreneurs will come into Nigeria, and more entrepreneurs will emerge from Nigeria. But people are afraid. If you look at how they are treating the ones ahead of you, you are afraid investing in this.
Maybe highlighting the role that these entrepreneurs play in job creation and economic development. I mean, that's part of it. We cannot leave job creation specifically to the government alone. I mean, the private sector is doing a lot. Highlight to us the relevance of this and what can be done to make it easier for more entrepreneurs to get into job creation.
Yeah, like you said, we all know it that the government of today is employing only about 7%, and the MSME are employing greater number. I can't quote it off out here, but that's why you need to encourage them more. All over the world, go check in America, businesses that started from maybe the basement of someone's father's house is today employing millions of people, Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, and the rest of them. So we need to encourage more entrepreneurs. Look at the men that built America were just entrepreneurs. And if we want to be like them, we need to start doing something now. Europe has seen it. So all those people within the Eurozone, they are encouraging them to change the curriculum and get the children to begin now to learn entrepreneurship. Even Rwanda that is just in East Africa, they've implemented it. So why should Nigeria wait? Though Nigerians are doing, the policymakers in the education space, they're doing something about it, but we need to hasten up because we need that mid to long-term plan, not just this quick feasting as in short plan. Children come out from school at the NYC camp, you give them training of 3 weeks and they avail them 1 million. Of course, you know they can't use it well because they're not properly trained. So when I say that we need to cut down on poverty, cut down on crime, cut down on unemployment, you just simply need entrepreneurs. So it's not something we should toy with. That's why I say government must pay attention to entrepreneurship now. We shouldn't wait. We look at it on a long term, maybe 10 years down the line, produce or breed more entrepreneurs that will help to catalyze, like you said, in the theme of this discourse, to be catalysts to the economic change. That's all we need now. And I'm soliciting that government pay attention.
In order to do that, a lot of funding is required. I want you to talk to us about access to funding for African entrepreneurs and in what ways that can be better.
Yeah, of course. If you look at like the past administration, they had a lot of a lot of initiatives on how to avail funds to Nigerians. But unfortunately, there are things that those in the monetary side should have done, because those money you gave them, inflation came and swallowed this up. They had the money, but they can't tell how the money suddenly vanished out of sight. So it's a systemic issue that everything has to be addressed holistically for an entrepreneur to thrive in this economy. So like you talked about loan, more people want loan. The loan is required to drive the economic activities, but at what rate? At what interest rate? That's the fear of the entrepreneur. If Nigeria is growing at 3-point-something% and you are charging somebody interest rate at as much as 40%, what do you want him to do? You know that at the point of availing that loan, you know that the person will come back with a lot of stories. So like I said, it has to be addressed. But more so, what we need to do now is it has to be a participation between the public and the private sector, where the private sector are ready to groom more entrepreneurs as they are moving up. Some people are moving in. If we have it as a project and looking at those big organizations coming on with say CSR that we encourage more entrepreneurs into the system, it will help us. Looking at parents encouraging their children to go into entrepreneurship, looking at teachers now, coming out to teach entrepreneurship in school. If we begin now to talk about it and sing it like a song, very soon Nigeria will be littered with entrepreneurs. That's problem solvers. And all these problems that we have, like hunger, criminalities, crime here and there, they will all reduce.
Access to funding is key, because no matter how innovative the idea is, if you don't have the initial capital to start off, correct me if I'm wrong, you might hit some hitches along the way. I want to ask another question. This one is something that a lot of persons, the other day we talked about the role of AI in Africa's development. Today I want you to look at technology, the adoption of technology and the role it is playing in enabling entrepreneurial growth and innovation on the continent. Is there any sign of that here in Nigeria?
Definitely now. That's why you have the fintechs. You have there's a lot of these days. I don't even go to bank in the comfort of my home. I do all my banking transactions. Things are moving faster than usual. It used to be. Like you brought back this access to funding. Well, I will say to you that an entrepreneur is someone who understands capital formation. But in this case, like I said, that they are doing it like savings and investment, also encouraging venture capitalists to come into our space. But the fact is this, a lot of things has to be done in Nigeria, because those that will give you this fund from diaspora are afraid. You have a lot of so-called internet fraud here and there. So let me come back to what you asked me about AI and the ease of doing business, leveraging technology. It's obvious Nigerians are always at the forefront of it. And when it comes to Africa, give it to Nigeria. We're either behind South Africa and Egypt, or even before them. Nigeria is doing well in terms of that, and we are doing well. Fintech is growing. A lot of Nigerians are doing well. Flutterwave, a lot of them are there. Even they are inviting them in America, because Nigerians are very creative. All they need is just enabling environment, and they will hit the roof. They will hit the skies.
Okay. This is something to do with your experience now. You've worked in Nigeria for many years, I believe. You've seen how business is run. If you were to put advice through to policymakers and government to support the entrepreneurial growth beyond the change in the curriculum, what would be your recommendation in the immediate, short, and long term?
Well, like you said, number one is infrastructure. We need electricity. We need security. I can give you an example. I do businesses here and there, almost all the whole geopolitical regions in Nigeria. And I know places I don't want to go to again as an entrepreneur because of security issues. So we need electricity for those in the manufacturing, and in fact, for every kind of business, even that small person who has where it makes confectionaries, they need electricity. That's the power. We need power. It's something we sing every day. We need infrastructure. We need good road, access road. But more for me is electricity, security, and then monetary policies. We need to pay attention to it to at least stabilize it. People cannot plan under uncertainty. It is always difficult. You don't know what the exchange rate gives you tomorrow. So you plan today, tomorrow, it is all confusion for you. So we need a lot of things, which I can't exhaust here. But the major things I can tell you is power. We need power. We need security, and then we need the central bank to firm up things in the monetary policy space.
Nigeria, or anywhere in Africa, is not an easy terrain to run any kind of business. So from someone who has been there, done that, what would be your advice to young entrepreneurs who are looking to grow their craft and make headway in the business world?
Yeah, my advice is always simple. Stay put. Don't run anywhere. One thing about business, there is always opportunity. Nigeria is filled with all kinds of opportunities. God has helped me to have gone to so many countries of the world. And in those developed economies, you might not have the chance you have in Nigeria. Though it looks boisterous now. But I believe with what the current government is promising us, if they stay by the promises and walk the talk, very soon everything will stabilize. So I will encourage young entrepreneurs who are coming into the space that the first thing is resilience. You need to build the mindset that if it goes up, you follow it. If it comes down, you follow it. Don't run away. Also, I would say the entire Africa, we have our own culture, and it influences the kind of thing we do. So borrowing things from the West and trying to implement it in Nigeria that way is like putting a square peg in a round hole. It's always difficult. So Nigeria has to also now design the curriculum and design all kinds of things that will mold the upcoming entrepreneurs to know how to do business and survive in Nigeria, to know how to do business and survive in Africa. And that's what I would say. So we have our roles, those that are upcoming, the new entrants, to stay put. Those that want to enter, make sure you understand entrepreneurship very well before you jump in. And for the government, please create that enabling environment, enabling, platform for us to navigate the whole thing. Especially the terrain is quite rough, but I believe with resilience that they are good to go.
I mean, let's end on a positive note by looking at your outlook on the future of entrepreneurship and what are the key trends to watch out for, particularly in Africa.
A lot of opportunities in Africa, a lot of opportunities. Look, we have a lot. Even the power I talked about is a problem. People should come in there and solve the problem. And come in with a lot of changes, find a way to create new things, create opportunities, use the resources very well. They are all here. What I encourage and what I kept saying is that we need to catch them young. Africa must plan, long term. Let us not continue to focus on it in the immediate, because entrepreneurship training does not happen that way. We must leverage education to inculcate in every child the mindset of an entrepreneur. And if they grow with it, definitely we're going to eliminate poverty. Definitely we're going to emerge, have economic independence. All this importation we cease, because all kinds of begging people to give us funds we cease, because we're going to generate what can keep Africa and drive all the economies in Africa from within us. It's with us. God has given us all the whole thing. If you go to even Republic of Congo, you see a deposit of stones like what do you call it again? The stone they used to make batteries. You have gold, you have diamond. All kinds of things are here. In Nigeria, we have the crude, we have the gas, we have everything that
the world is
anything
is possible, basically, if we put our minds to it. I think that's what I'm going to take away from this conversation. Anything we put our mind to, we can accomplish. But of course, government needs to play their role and provide an enabling environment. Nnamdi, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for speaking with us.
Thank you very much, Felicity. Nice being on one slot.